choosing the right partner for you. Patience is absolutely important to choosing the right person for you. Many times, relationships influence us greatly. And many times we can even delay the meeting of the right person for us by overindulging in relationship patterns that have us closing off to love, have us dissatisfied in love, and have us ignoring our intuition regarding the person we're with and the type of people we are attracting. The greatest lesson we gain from relationships is intuition. And the more relationships we have, the more intuition is head on. It comes at us straight forward. But many of us, we get into a habit of ignoring our intuition when it comes to relationships. And we can ignore our intuition because of society, right? Society says we have to be in this type of relationship, so we have a type, right? And many times the type, right? This is the type of man, this is the type of woman based on what our friends, our family is saying, right, to us. The pressure, basically, right, groupthink and the pressure to have this type of relationship can actually be a reason why we ignore our intuition. It also can be childhood. A lot of us, when we have any form of childhood judgment or childhood shame or childhood belittlement when it comes to expressing our emotions or expressing love to those around us, we can carry a blockage within us, right? And that has us attracting relationships that very much mirror back to us that childhood blockage that was formed due to some sort of shame, judgment, or belittlement regarding our ability to express ourselves. So we may be in relationships where we feel like we can't express ourselves, right? Or we feel the other person is not entirely accepting of the way we express ourselves, right? Or we feel in these relationships that we have to close it off, shut it down, right? We have to be something else, right? And when we, again, over time, when we have these kinds of relationships that are based off of a type, right? We can all have a type, right? We all want beauty, right? They're the beautiful connection, a beautiful person, a beautiful mind, right? Beauty, right? And for men, it's the aesthetics of, let's say, a woman is even more, you could say, pressurized on a man to have this type of, the aesthetics of a woman, right? But when we talk about the type, your intuition has a type, right, of a partner, because your intuition knows, right, on a spiritual level, the partnership that's going to give you higher levels of creativity. Right, but what happens is when we ignore intuition and we keep engaging in these relationships, the relationship pattern where we have a decade of, let's say, 5 different relationships, right, that lasted years or months, but they're all the same. There's a lot of people where it's like, I've been in a decade of relationships, but they were all the same. They started the same, they ended the same, the whole relationship dynamic was the same. Right? And for those people, right, it's ignoring the intuition, right? The intuition, this person is showing you something about yourself. And a lot of times it's showing you your self-worth, right? Or showing you how you have a blockage in expressing your love, right? Or you have a major fear when it comes to giving or receiving love. And that causes some sort of conflict in the relationship that is there for you to basically heal this part of yourself that for many comes from the childhood, right? And we get these sort of fears or these blockages when it comes to giving and receiving love from the childhood and from seeing our mother and our father. and how there was a sort of imbalance or injustice in the giving and receiving of love, right? There was some sort of judgment, shame, some could even be some sort of hatred going on in the childhood between the mother and father, or just the mother had towards herself, right? Or the father had towards himself, right? And that definitely will need to play out. And it will play out in our personal relationships until we begin to develop our intuition. But when we never give attention, right, pay attention, right, to their intuition, what happens is people start to build up, right, these relationships, and they start to get very confused by all of these relationships, right? Or they've ignored their intuition for so long, they've gotten married maybe too soon, or they got married and they just, if something felt off, or they felt pressure from family, society, right? Or it could even be that the whole relationship, they never really paid attention to their intuition, right? They never really sat with themselves and asked these critical questions that we should all ask ourselves, right? Is this giving me a bigger experience of creativity? Is this giving me a bigger experience of prosperity? Is this giving me a bigger experience of the power of healing, right? Which healing is about co-creation. It's about collaboration, right? It's about making something together, right? Not destroying each other, right? A lot of times we're destroying each other, or we're it feels like it's a distraction or some sort of dissatisfaction. It's really just our spiritual self is really just saying to work on your intuition, right? And when we really start to really, pull back our energy from getting emotionally interlocked with all of these individuals or these relationships, when we really start to relax, right, and just observe and to be vigilant and to develop this awareness of ourselves, right, when we really start to have that life review, right, that's when our intuition really begins to flourish. And that's when we really start to have a bigger imagination, and we start to have a bigger visualization and a greater vision of what partnership is beyond the childhood dysfunction or the teenage upset or whatever memories or insecurities that we're harboring deep inside of us. In that life review, when we're really just relaxing with ourselves, we really start to understand how patience is absolutely important to really allowing your intuition to speak to you. And many times we're like pulling on each other for answers, and you must be what I want you to be, and if not, I'm never going to talk to you again. And there's a lot of this control, right? That will be, I want this, and you know that there's really a very low amount of patience when it comes to each other's spiritual growth. Because we must understand that a part of the journey of relationship is about the self, right? There is no other, right, without the self. There is no real creative expansion without self and other having their own sort of life review and their own sort of, you can say, spiritual progress. And we all know, as an individual, spiritual growth and spiritual process is it requires and demands patience, right? So what can happen, right, when we're not patient with our spiritual process and we don't pay attention to our intuition, right? Because we have some sort of belief about our intuition that has us blocking it in some way, right? What happens is the universe has, you can say, a perfect setup for us, but we have free will. So we can do whatever we want in this physical plane, right? We can get married to whoever, we can have kids with whoever, right? But we do have particular a perfect setup for us, right? It's just a lot of us are not patient with it. So everything is our free will. This is our own experience, right? The divine lets us have our own experience. But the more you get closer with your intuition, the more you realize, wait a minute, there actually is a perfect setup when it comes to relationship. I'm willing to be patient. I'm willing to develop my personal power, my creativity and character, so that I can be able to receive that, because a part of receiving is healing, right? Because there's this perfect setup, but for many of us on a spiritual level, we must heal. We must heal whatever it is that is a part of our growth, right? Heal through that, right? And a lot of the things that are part of our growth is the childhood, the parents, the way our life is set up from early years to the years we are now, right? All the challenges and all of the opportunities to really pay attention to your intuition. Everything is basically pay attention to your intuition, everything, right? And many times we don't. And I can see this a lot in our relationship community when it comes to people who are very confused about they're with somebody, they've been married, but then they don't feel it, and then they're, or there's a lot of this sort of relationship confusion because I just don't feel we're very patient with ourselves and not very patient with our intuition, right? In this sort of unfolding, because the intuition can unfold and it could take years, right? But I feel like a lot of us, and what happens is we can delay meeting the right person we're meant to be with. Right? Again, everything is a part of a divine timing, a divine order. So there really is in the bigger picture, everything is experienced to learn and to serve your soul, and your soul is infinite. So it enjoys experience, such as, that gives you wisdom, right? So the more experience, you have, the more your soul can have can gain wisdom from being a human being, right? Even if that wisdom is obtained through difficulties, right? Or challenging relationships, or what we call the hamster wheel of relationships, where it's like 10 years of the same kind of thing. That really is just mirroring to us what kind of, we gain some sort of dysfunction from the father, mother, and the childhood relationship, right? Or from even society and what we've seen in society, right? We kind of picked that up, it became our own sort of belief. And then we created a habit, and now it's a pattern, right? It kind of is our idea of what a relationship is for us, and that we just keep going for that until we start to really heal, right? This idea of love. And for many of us, we call about choosing the right person doesn't really start. Right, because we have many, like, friends. It's not just lovers, it's even friends, business partners. We don't really start to choose the right people until we start to develop our intuition and really start to have a life review and really start to embrace our spirituality, right, as a key element to choosing the right relationship, right? Because, and when I mean like delay, we can delay meeting the right person, right? Because again, there are many people that they wish they would have been patient. They wish that they listened to their intuition, or that they had more faith in their intuition, and that they really allowed themselves to obey and to follow their heart, right? Follow their intuition instead of just remaining in fear or remaining in a pattern or a habit or some sort of relationship type that really wasn't fulfilling them and really wasn't giving them the next level of their spirituality, or really wasn't giving them higher creativity, right? Where they felt like intuitively it just wasn't providing them a sense of higher imagination, or it didn't really give to them this like full acceptance of themselves, or really didn't raise their self-worth, right? And we all know those type of relationships, right, where it really didn't raise our self-worth, right? In many ways it can lower our self-worth, or it didn't really help us creatively. It didn't really help us with higher imagination, right? And our intuition just was very clear and direct, as it always is, that this relationship is simply, it's a mirror, right? And it wants to mirror to us something that we need to heal so that we can better heal for the person that the divine has for us. But sometimes we call this person that really does, is a mirror to us to help us heal. A lot of times we can just think that's the one, right? As we're all thinking, oh, this is the one, that's the one. But we don't really realize that the one, right, it really is through our intuition, and that intuition is an unfolding process of us working on our personal power, our creativity, and our character. And when we are just caught in the childhood or just caught in society, when we are very much just going for things because our friends or our family, or because society tells us to, and when we don't really have an independent mind or sovereignty, we're not really going to be attracting what the divine has set up for us, right? Because in order for us to really get in alignment with that, we really do have to start to believe in our intuition, right? We really do have to start to open it up and start to heal our heart and work with our emotions and begin to and bring inspiration to our thoughts, right? And to begin to reinvent our patterns. Because a part of this, the right one for you or the right person for you, at this current time or on the earth, it's really about you raising your vibration with another human being. And that raising your vibration with another human being brings about this greater prosperity. But if we ourselves are nowhere even accepting of that because of all the fear and the blockages and the insecurities, right? Because we have so much sabotage and illusions, that person could be right there and we would just, the type, it doesn't fit the type, right? And then we're caught up in another relationship. We could even be married with somebody that we know intuitively it's just, we're not listening to our intuition about, right? Or we could just have all these memories of past relationships that didn't work out, and now we're having all of this confusion about the person that the divine is presenting us, right? And because we didn't listen to our intuition, right? When we pay attention to our intuition, we start to really, things move in a self-knowledge, right? It becomes self-knowledge, it becomes self-discovery for higher creativity. It's not there to keep us stuck, to keep us trapped in a memory, in a partnership. It's not there to, karma, if karma with this person, I have to work out, and that's why I'm just kind of interlocked with this person for this many years. You can burn off your karma it's not this, you have to suffer or have these, patterns or beliefs about relationships that do not really serve your higher creativity, right? When we talk about your karma basically is about you repairing your energy, right? And how we repair our energy, when I talk about when we're in our most, you can say, like healed energy state, right? Which is, we talk about having no karmic scars or cuts or ties to people, right? In a sort of conflict or negative charge that creates some sort of earthbound illusion, like I hate you and revenge and all that kind of stuff, is really just through the intuition development is how we're able to repair our energy state, right? And, fill up, these scars and these wounds, right? To nourish ourselves, because intuition nourishes us, right? And when we begin to work on it, right, we start to have this just natural self-knowledge and this natural sort of self-discovery. We just have this natural sort of higher imagination, higher creativity, right? And that's the state we're really meant to be in, right? Because the divine really does want us to experience love. But in the higher vibration of love, unconditional love, is very difficult for a human being who has all this shame and feelings of not being good enough and judgment. It's really hard for that type of human being, which is all of us, right, to be able to obtain and to really receive that kind of higher love. So the divine knows that, okay, the divine will give us friends or even lovers or even siblings or even parents that can help us, or they can really help us to activate the intuition, to really uncover these sort of karmas of the past lives or these sort of wounds of the childhood, right? And as agitating and as triggering or as kind of sad as these sort of things can be, they're really there to help us to really heal, right? To really heal and evolve beyond whatever pattern or belief about ourselves, or even in connection with, relationships that really is keeping us in a low self-worth, right? Where we're hiding and where we're holding back and where we are chasing or where we are running from love, or where we are in relationships where there is no reciprocity, right? Where we're a doormat, we're taken advantage of, whatever that is, right? And some people, they get so used to that type of mirror that they don't even realize that's just mirroring to you your healing journey, not what love is meant to be like, or what your life partner is going to be like. It's mirroring to you there's something that there's inside of you that wants to heal. And it could be, again, a lot of us, we don't even give ourselves the time of day to actually really look at something, really feel. Because what happens is when we get, this is a fight or flight response. When we experience a relationship pattern or a belief or a habit, right, that is not fulfilling, and we feel like we're kind of a hamster wheel, or we just don't feel very, we're like, it's a very challenging life lesson, right? It's very challenging relationships. We can emotionally shut off. And that's the worst thing we can do as human beings, because how intuition targets us, and how intuition really speaks, and how we're able to really develop intuition and start to evolve beyond these sort of patterns and habits, right, is through emotions. And the moment we start to shut off emotionally and start to, we freeze. We freeze, meaning we become ice. We freeze in a memory. So there's some people that they're still in a relationship and it ended 5 years ago. They're frozen. They're frozen it because when that relationship, whatever happened, they froze. They shut off their emotions. They turn it off, whatever it is, because they just got so agitated or so fearful or so upset with whatever that pattern or belief is about love. They created that illusion that love doesn't want them, or love doesn't accept them, or love is to harm them, or whatever it is. They froze in that memory. They froze in an illusion, froze themselves in time, in this illusion that love is basically basically love is a downfall, right? Or whatever illusion that these people play out, right? That it's not real, or whatever it is, right? And what happens is we don't learn the lesson. And then the same people that are frozen in time, it's like 10 years later, they still haven't learned the lesson, right? Because it is about your intuition. I'm telling you, intuition, how it works with you is it works through you in your drive, or your strive to transform. That's when intuition begins its process of leveling you up, so that you can actually receive what it is that you intend to receive on a soul spiritual level. But you have to you have to reach a certain you have to get to a certain completion with these, you can say, more elementary life lessons, right? Which is, when I say elementary, is like shame and judgment and feelings not being good enough, right? The childhood and the society and that kind of thing, right? Taking back your sovereignty, really, when it comes to the way you view love, right? And the way you trust your feelings. Because when we talk about elementary level of life lesson, it really is your emotions, right? We really can't, we think about spiritual growth without emotional maturity. It's like elementary level of, you can say, how we're able to evolve beyond these beliefs and these illusions and these habits of being in connections that we just know this is not giving me higher creativity. We just know, right? And like I said, when we just keep doing it, right, it's just, we start to delay that actual experience. Because really, it's all, everything, when I talk about the timing of your life, it's all your willingness to listen to your intuition. That's all that it is. And your readiness, right, surrounding your intuition, meaning you first must listen to your intuition, but then you first must be ready. Second, ready, right? And that's the timing of you. That's the timing of when you are going to listen to your intuition. Now, you can live frozen for 2 decades and then, de-thaw and then start to listen to your intuition. But realize in that 2 decades, what were you doing? oh, I was just in a marriage with a connection, and we really didn't get along, or right, we really didn't, there wasn't much higher creativity coming from us, right? It was just a constant back and forth of mirroring to each other this low self-worth, right, or this insecurity, and it never got resolved. It was just a constant, just, it would come up and then it would go and then it would come back, and just doing that for years with somebody, right? And then saying that, well, you know, that's just how it is, right? So when we really start to pay attention to our intuition, our feelings, that's when we start to really listen to what it is that we want. We start to really develop this self-psychology, which is actually a part of human nature to have this even animals have this self-psychology, right? It seems more than humans, right? In many ways, humans don't have this sort of self-psychology, right? They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want. They're just, you know, just playing the field with everything and expecting to get results from playing the field. Animals don't do that. They know playing the field ain't going to get them anywhere. It's just going to get them nowhere, right? They have to know who they are. They know what they want. All of these animals are like that. Except human beings, we don't know who we are, we don't know what we want, because we don't initiate ourselves into anything that is about spirituality. We don't initiate. What really happens is most of us are initiated by the divine through tower moments and all these kind of, you know, these moments of where it feels like the rug is ripped right underneath our feet. Many times we don't self-initiate ourselves, we're forced into it. Because we gotten so in a hamster wheel with whatever habit that's like a decade or, you know, 2 decades have gone by, and our soul is like, no more. It's time to listen to intuition, right? And when it comes to the mate, right? You know, even animals, it's like they know who they are. They know what they want because they have this self-psychology. They have this instinct. Right? They have this intuition. They're very, very aware of their creative impact and their creative force, right? And a lot of us, we all have this self-psychology. We all have this inner instinct about the type of partnership we're meant to experience in this life, right? Because we do have a sort of life partner. We do have a partnership that but again, it's like almost like you have to be initiated into that. It's almost like a life partner is you there's a certain readiness, right? And when we think about an intuitive readiness, it means that you have to kind of master these life lessons, right? And many people, they just are so brought down by the low self-worth and low self-esteem that they don't even put energy on love. They don't even put energy on partnership, right? And I'm seeing that as how we put energy on the readiness to receive reciprocity and on the readiness to actually have a partnership that is of higher creativity, right? And bringing that out of each other and giving a bigger experience of what it is to be in harmony with somebody and to express and to discover and to share and to include each other. It really is our process of personal power, creativity, and character development within our own lives. Because like I said, like to know who you are, know what you want is kind of the guiding force that you can see in people. Like when they have no idea what they want, no idea who they are, you see them in relationships and it's just like, they're nowhere. There's just nowhere, and you could feel it, and they know it, and everyone knows it, right? And then knowing who you are, knowing what you want, there's this sort of life force in the relationship that these people are attracting or participating in, even as friends, right? Even as friends, or even acquaintances, or teachers, or whatever that is. So, in many ways, we are brought into this experience that we have right now in this moment, right? Whatever it is, it's going to be different. Some people are going to be, their intuition, they're going to listen to their intuition either in many ways, right? It's all different paths of what brings you to your intuition. Many people, participate in many relationships so they can get the wisdom of what it is to be in these type of relationships, so that they can complete that, right? Because sometimes we got to get into things that get us a little rough and get us a little tough, right? So that we can gain the wisdom. Because life is about participation. Life is about risk. Life is about getting yourself involved. Not sitting around and just, fearful that, what if this isn't right for me? It really is about getting involved. Because really how you expedite your growth is through partnerships. Let's just be honest. Right? It is about partnerships. That's how you get the lesson. But really how you really have quantum leap, right, in what it calls your idea of love, is through your self-psychology. Is through looking at these agitations, these triggers, these habits, these relationship pattern from a perspective of self-psychology, which is about looking at yourself, really looking at yourself, and really building up your personal power, creativity, and character around the way that you are participating with love, and how you ignore love or ignore your intuition or deny your feelings, right? Or the way that you engage, right, in these relationships, and has that nourish your intuition, or has that not nourish your intuition. And you'll know, because when your intuition is nourished, that connection that co-creation with that person, that collaboration with that person, you'll be getting higher creativity from that. Your thoughts will be inspired. You will feel in that partnership a bigger energy, a bigger life force, right? A bigger, a higher imagination. And you will feel that you are becoming more of who you are with that person around. I'm talking about more of who you are from the perspective of the fullest of your expression, the wholeness of your being. The inner child, the most kindred, sincere person is the fullness of you. The most kindred and sincere person, right? But again, we have these patterns. We get them from our father or mother. Like, we saw our father was a liar, so we take that on, and we feel like we have to lie because of that's just how we're supposed to do it, right? Or we see the mother could be, it's like, superficial, and we see, oh well, that's what it is, the superficial, or that's the standard of love, right? We're like, the standard of love is cheating, or lying, or abuse, or superficiality, or whatever it is. We all have these standards, but a part of the journey, the spiritual journey on this planet of excelling with your life partner, is really about really healing this standard, really expanding and really evolving this standard of love, this standard of a man, the standard of a woman, through your own efforts, right? Through your own, because it's your free will. You can keep this standard of love. You can even live that out for this life. You can have a relationship, you can marry it, have kids with it, and realize that standard of love is very low, right? Because it won't be giving you bigger, higher creativity, prosperity, reciprocity, right? It won't be raising your self-worth, right? It won't bring you the fullness of your self-expression, like your most kindred and sincere self, right? And you will feel like it will feel like an injustice to your intuition in some way, right? Especially if again, it's the time, right? You've reached the sort of, you've gotten the lesson. It's time to move on. Like, it's only for a season, but you've made it like 5 years, right? Because you'll know, right? And a lot of people know, but especially women, right? But they just, right? We just get so comfortable in the standard of love, because we look in society and we see, well, my family had that standard of love. All my friends have that standard of love. But I'm telling you, a part of your spiritual growth and reciprocity and prosperity, which is not for all faint of heart, and it's not everybody. it's not for everybody, right? Because there's a level of sovereignty that many people they'll ignore until they're dead, their whole life. There's a level of backbone and sovereignty you must have. And how you really develop that is through your personal power, your creativity, and your character, because all of that is giving you the strength as a human being to recognize your intuition as the key to your imagination, your vision, and your ability to manifest. And not only manifest through your efforts and through your patience, but also to improve the standard of love within your family lineage, right? Your parents, your father, and to also improve the standard of love or relationship harmony, right, for this planet. And I feel like a lot of us, if you're listening to this, you're a part of that group that desires to level up this standard of relationship, right, through inviting these these practices that animals do constantly, which is self-psychology, instinct, intuition. It's called discernment and boundaries, self-worth, right? And when we start to really invite these practices in, as animals do, right? Animals are initiated into animalhood, right? Manhood, womanhood, very much similar, right? Very young, by their pack, by their tribe, right? By the earth itself, right? And animals have that integrity with themselves. They have that integrity, right? And how we as human beings, we gain that sense of integrity with our intuition, where our instincts, our intuition is spot on, like animals, right? Is very much through when we start to practice, right, these sort of rituals, right? We start to practice these kind of rituals that are for the purpose of helping us to evolve these low standards of life, right? Which is I hate myself, poverty, relationship dysfunction, lying and cheating, or whatever that like low standard of relationship is, and begin to evolve it through our efforts towards personal power, creativity, and character. And that's how we are able to restore the balance in ourselves. Because I'm telling you, a lot of people in relationships, you can feel there's no real much balance, right? So how we really restore the balance within ourselves is really about is when we start to feel more confident in our intuition, right? Which is through, we get that through an active participation in love and creating harmony and being, right, sort of being graceful in that, right? How we really start to heal, right? Because a part of animals and what makes them, they know how to heal. Just instinctually, they know how to heal. So our intuition, it's a sense of personal power, right? It's a sense of your life force, right? Your willingness, your participation in love, because it is about a discovery. It is about a dance. And as you know, if you took dance, it's not easy, right? Sometimes you have to practice for 8 hours a day to actually get it really good, right? And you have to constantly overcome these, you can say, these sort of body, you can say these sort of body challenges, right? When it comes to doing the moves, right? Because your body may not necessarily be comfortable in moving in that way, and that's why you have to keep practicing the move until your body loosens up and starts to move in a new way that it was blocked from moving into before. And instinct is like your creativity. Instinct is like, when a deer gets a cut, right? Or, it gets caught in something, there's a natural instinct of how to heal. It's the same thing with creativity. Creativity is your natural, you go to that when you need to heal, or you go to that when you need to relax, you go to that when you need to meditate, or you need to get inspired, or you go to that when you really need to expand your imagination or expand your life, right? So, and then when we think of your character, that has everything to do with your integrity, right? How patient, how tolerant, how forgiving, how compassionate, right? And how much attention you're putting on these areas, or how much I'm telling you, the lack of attention on these areas, the people have a wanky character because they don't put much attention. They don't put much attention on forgiveness, compassion, patience, tolerance. They're in a lot of people who don't have much of attention, right, that they put in their, these areas, right, on their character and their integrity. A lot of times there's a sense of unfairness about the people's characters, where they feel like something's unfair, or they create this unfairness in their relationships, right? And that unfairness in the character, it really does take away from the person's integrity. It really does. Because without bringing in that fairness into your own livelihood, right, you as a man or woman, creating the fairness within your own, you, right, in any way you can, right, through putting your attention on you getting a higher self-worth of you, so that you feel complete regardless of the injustice that's out there in the world. Because we might not be able to have a say on the injustice out in the world, but you bet through raising our self-worth, we can bring justice to our internal world, right? And that's your character. When you have justice in your internal world, that reveals that you have a strong character. Because again, you can't force justice in this world. We know, we can't really do that, right? But sometimes the injustice of the world, we can get, put so much attention on that in whatever way that it can really belittle our character, where we start to have this injustice in our own internal reality, right? When it comes to our beliefs and our ideas and our self-worth, right? Our self-worth, it loses confidence, it loses strength, it loses patience, right? And then we have low self-worth, we become victim, we become entitled, we become greedy, we become selfish, right? As a way to compensate for our damaged character, right? And then we get agitated. A lot of people, when they don't have the fairness internally, they're very agitated by everything that is the injustice out there in the world. But then all that does is it doesn't do anything for them, right? So I just wanted to discuss briefly about this love, right? The standard of love, right? Raising the vibration of ourselves in relationships so that we can actually begin to evolve beyond these common, you can say, I say delays, right? Again, it's really not a delay, but when you got 10 years of just ignoring your intuition in any way, and just, being in the same kind of relationship pattern and not having any sort of psychology going on, right? That can feel like a delay, right? So through this practice of understanding the intuition is not about the relationship, the memory, the past, and what's not working for us, right? Is showing us what's not working for us so that we can start to use our imagination to start to really pay attention to what works for us really well, and really start to pay attention to the natural, more sovereign idea of love that we had when we were young, right? When we were very independent thinkers, right? That idea of love that we have when we're at a high self-worth state, right? And begin to build ourselves up so that we can be able to take that in, right? And to actually move that into our lives.